last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Let's bring him on. Without further ado, Nick.
Me and my dad lived in a one-bedroom apartment. I slept on the couch. Wasn't much money going around, so I realized, like, I'm gonna have to work if I want anything. I was a personal trainer. I had all these wealthy clients. I'm training them, and I'm working my butt off. I'm working 60 hours a week, and they're telling me about their trips that they took to the Maldives, and they're pulling up in Rolls Royces. I'm like, you're working way less than me, making way more than me. And then the light bulb went off. You can't trade time for money in this world.
How critical is it to have those systems really dialed in from what you've seen over the last 10 years and moving forward?
Speed of lead is critical with those inbound leads. A lot of times, the first person to get the seller on the phone is going to get the deal. That's a big thing I see a lot of investors miss. If they can generate the leads, they're not handling the leads properly when they come in, and they're burning through a lot of opportunity costs. If you took a look around my office right now and you didn't know what we're doing, you could probably think we're like selling insurance in here. You know, all we're doing is marketing and sales. Master marketing number one, and then master sales.
You have that down. Like, you know exactly what you want. And I think there are some people that get into the business and they're just hiring, just, fill the roles.
When you're scaling, take your time, because it's very easy to have your expenses get out over your heels. And the reason it's easy to do it in wholesaling is because our sales cycle is around 90 days. It took me 104 appointments to get my first deal. It took 11 months, 104 face-to-face seller appointments, striking out on every kitchen counter, barely making ends meet, thought I was gonna get evicted. And I remember I said, you didn't come this far to only come this far. So you got to have that get rich or die trying mindset, and really have that hunger and beast inside of you to be able to persist through when the times get hard, and they will get hard.
You crushed it. Can't wait to see you soon, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
So fun having Nick Perry on the show last week. Wow. Talk about a story, and talk about how he went from getting into the game and transitioning so he can be away from his business, but his business is still churning and grinding. I mean, it takes a lot to be able to figure something like that out. And Nick Perry has that down to just a formula. And he's got that. And I love when I ask him what's next, and he's got more things on the plate to come. So if you miss any of that episode with Nick Perry, not one to miss. You got to check that out and scan the QR code right at the top. You'll get the whole content. You can catch us on all the major social media platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. And you can catch all the probate education, all the other messy things that come up. I got videos all the time. And of course, if you are enjoying these episodes, if you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you're at, feel free to share the episode, right? That's the idea. We want to provide the value to everybody so everybody gets an idea of how to level up in their business. Maybe it's an idea that your friend or colleague has been thinking about, or you guys talked about at lunch or dinner. If you hear about it, share the show. We love it. Whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, it's a game changer for people. Well, I got to tell you guys, I am really excited to have on the guest tonight, because everybody in the investor circle has been talking about Empora Title. And I've been like, this is crazy. Like, what's going on with Empora that we don't know? And I'm so happy that I got to meet Jenna at the Family Mastermind. And she was like, you got to connect with Megan Harris. And I was like, all right, we're doing this. So on the episode tonight, we got Megan Harris, the founder and owner of Empora Title, doing deals virtually, closing deals virtually. I'm so excited to hear about this. And we're really connecting for the first time and being able to talk about this. And that's the best part, right? It's really having that real conversation about how this is working for people. So I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. I got my energy for today, and I got my pen, I got my paper, and I'm ready to bring this. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bring in the best experts and the value to you out there so you guys can crush the game, so you can tackle the hard things, the difficult things, the things that you've been really wanting to achieve and get into, whether it's in land, whether you're doing Airbnb, whether you're getting into maybe pad split stuff or commercial, or you're just really trying to level up your game with marketing and branding. We are going to bring that value on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show, we have the founder and owner of Empora Title, doing deals and closing deals virtually in the title world, something a lot of investors are intrigued to hear about. And Megan is seeing it all over, and especially she's seeing it in the Florida market. And I am just so excited to have her on the show. So without further ado, let's welcome her to the show. Megan, so good to see you.
So good to see you too. Super excited to be here and appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. I've heard a lot about what Empora is doing. I heard a lot of what the investors are talking about and how deals are happening and getting closed virtually, which is a game changer for the industry, right? A lot of people have been doing things in person, but being able to do things and work with investors on closings is been amazing. Megan, we gotta open this whole conversation up with what is hot right now in the market, because I think a lot of people are intrigued to know what's the next thing, what should people be focusing on, what's bubbling right now that the title companies see. Because like you can probably agree, on my probate end and on the title end, we're seeing more things than a lot of other people see. So talk to us about the novations that you've been seeing. What's been hot in the novation market?
Yeah, absolutely. Novations, man, we've seen novations just absolutely blow up over the past year and a half. And I actually remember first.
They're blowing up. They're blowing up. It's happening. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I don't know what's going to happen with the internet. Hopefully she comes back. Yep, you're good. Keep going.
Sorry about that. So yeah, the first time I heard about it, it was a little over 2 years ago. And, the investor I was talking to said, don't tell anybody about this because nobody's doing it. And since then it has totally blown up in every state that we do business. And really what we're seeing is more sophisticated investors and investors who are really looking to grow their businesses are looking to novations as a way to continue making the profit that they want on their deals while also having, just a more honest conversation with their sellers. And so it seems like a better win-win tool for everybody when they're able to use it.
Very cool. So what have you seen? What are some situations that you've seen some investors creatively use it? Maybe they brought a deal to the table to get closed, but then they had to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, Megan, we got to come back to this and start doing some novations.
Right. So the places where we've seen it the most are really when investors have really great relationships with their sellers, but they have the opportunity to make the profit spread that they would on a double close normally. So what we see it is, we're seeing it mostly where people could be making the spreads of a double close, but also have the rapport built with sellers to actually go and get the deals done as a novation instead. And they've gone really, really well for people overall. And we're seeing, a lot of the investors that we work with, maybe half of their assignments are now novations. And that's really a pragmatic way to go.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We're missing the golden nuggets right now. Hopefully she comes back. Let's see what happens. Let's get some magic. Let's get some magic to come back. There she is. She's back. Keep going.
Cool. Where did you last hear me?
You were just dropping the golden nuggets on people just changing and going into the novation part.
Yep. So yeah, we're seeing people who normally are doing a lot of assignments. They'll reallocate maybe about a third to a half to novations where they have really good rapport with their sellers and want to make the profit of a double close. So it's a smart way to go. It's a smart tool to get familiarized with, especially with some of the legislation that's rolling out that's, stopping wholesalers from using normal contract paths.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think Nick was kind of talking about that last week about how a lot of the different states are changing their laws with wholesaling, right? And so now people are having to morph into this modern day of wholesaling with novations. So definitely, for sure. Um, Megan, another thing that's been bubbling, and I can even explain it on my end too, because I've seen some crazy stuff, has been the fraud and the deed fraud that's been going on with some of these sellers. And you've talked about how, like, if you're going to be in this game, you really got to have these right conversations with these sellers to know what's going on. What's happening with the deed fraud?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we're seeing with the deed fraud, one, it's going up a ton. So the Ohio Land Title Association actually recently put out numbers saying that 17% of all title companies in Ohio last year closed on a fraudulent deed, and that was 3 times more than the year prior. So it is up. And honestly, where we're seeing it the most is family fraud. So you probably see it quite a bit, honestly, on the probate side, where you've got family members who are just not on the same page. And lo and behold, somebody can maybe use an ID to make it look like a relative of theirs. And it's a really sad situation, honestly, because we're seeing a lot of petty family crime, show up in deed fraud, whereas some of your more traditional fraud is, the hacker who's 7 states away. That's not who's committing deed fraud. It's somebody, it's a family member you're in a dispute with, and it can be really messy to unwind.
Yeah, where I'll tell you, I've seen some deed fraud have been the wild deeds where some of the people, the fraudsters, think that they can get cute, and they try to find those distressed properties and put the title of that property, and or get some distant relative and they put the title in their name and they record it. And the count, what's the county doing? County's not doing anything. They're just looking at it and saying, does it look like a deed? Yeah, okay, here, let's get it recorded. And so we saw a situation about 4 years ago where there was deed fraud, and they made it look like they conveyed it from a relative to these people, and the notary was involved, the grantee was involved, and we had to quiet the title to solve that issue. So in some circumstances, um, sometimes you can find deals because of these situations, right? You may not even know that it's a situation that's a deal, and you may stumble upon it. But Megan, like you're talking about, that's crazy how people could be just impersonating other people like that. And you're seeing more of that. How can investors or realtors or people that are in the game better protect themselves in those situations? Like, what are some other steps that you've seen to have those preventative steps up front?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So the number one thing is know your sellers, right? Know who they are, understand if they're married, understand if they have been married in the past, when did that get, undone, if you will, and make sure you're really building those relationships. So by the time, it rolls around to title and, we're looking at the title work on a property, if we bring up somebody on title, and it's not somebody who is either on the auditor's site or in the contract, investors need to make sure that they have that rapport with the seller where they can actually have an honest conversation about what needs to be done. Sometimes we see sellers who actually, we just saw a situation not that long ago where a guy was married to somebody who died, and they got divorced before she died, and he actually convinced a woman at a bar to impersonate his deceased ex-wife, right? And so that was a situation where, if the investor didn't have rapport with that, well, they didn't have rapport with that seller, but if they did have rapport, then it would have been a completely different situation where maybe they would have gotten a more honest conversation up front and not had all the sunk costs and time in unwinding the deal, leading up to closing. So have great rapport, make sure you're looking at the auditor site when you're getting your contract signed, and get a good attorney like Al Nicoletti to help you for the sticky situations.
The crazy probates and messy situations. It's definitely a different world on my end, and I'm sure you're seeing it different in your end, because that title world that you're in, Megan, I could tell you, I seen so many things on my end I couldn't imagine what you're seeing with every different type of transaction, whether it's somebody that's dead or alive. There's always something happening. Another thing that you talked about with me too is that a lot of people are doing transactional funding and people are moving away from the assignments. Another hot trend in real estate in the title world. Explain what's happening in that realm.
Yeah. So with a lot of the legislation passing, we're definitely seeing investors thinking about what comes next if assignments are no longer a tool in my toolbox. And so people are building relationships with those transactional lenders, could be private money lenders too. So they're educating their private money lenders on what those options look like. And it's just another tool beyond the novations to, still get deals done. And those are relationships that I would advocate everybody should be building now. So if something does change in your state, you're not, hung out to dry. And it's something that title companies are also going to have to adjust and learn how to do. Empora is very well positioned to handle that today. And we help people find those lenders all the time. But overall, people need to start moving away from, the way they have been doing things and making sure they're building relationships with those lenders for what the next phase of real estate is going to look like.
Yeah, there's so many things that you have to get in place now so that you can better prepare yourself for different trends that happen, right? So I didn't even know that was something that was happening, and there you go. You're starting to see it on your title end, which is interesting. And just so people know where we're kind of going, I really wanted to open up with these hot topics because I think a lot of people need to know what's happening right now. And as we go on, Megan's going to break down like what you need to get together, the things that everybody needs to have, and the way that people should run with their TCs and manage their operations. And I got to save the best for last with Megan, which is the secrets and golden nuggets of how you can get these deals closed virtually. And that's going to be right at the end. You don't want to miss that part. So Megan, let's talk about this. A lot of times you can see things from your end that a lot of the investors are not seeing in their own businesses, whether they start hiring people. And that really can be the basic things, right? Getting your contract together, getting your business together, getting your website, getting your brand, getting your logo, getting all these things. Talk to us about the importance of having all these things and what people can do to succeed in this industry.
Yeah. So, especially if you're a newer investor, one of the first things I always recommend people do is make sure you're getting tapped into resources for the basics like your bank account, your business documents, and your contracts. So, if you're a new investor, one, it's just silly to reinvent the wheel on things that everybody else has already figured out. But two, you want your lenders and your title company and your end buyers to take you seriously. And so just take the time to get some of those basic things in place and pay the, however much money it costs up front. I assume it's not that expensive, a couple grand maybe when it's all said and done, to get your business set up. So by the time you are going and maybe you get a deal in a zip code or in a state that you don't normally do business in, you need to find a lender and a title company that you don't normally use. If you show up without your docs in order, they're not going to take you as seriously. And frankly, they're just not going to close the deal as quickly because it's just a headache in their email inbox. So, Empora has a site where we completely manage that digitally to take that headache away from people. But I always recommend people do that because, man, it's boring. It's not sexy to talk about, but what is sexy is getting your deals closed faster. And that certainly does help.
Absolutely. Of course. You want the deals closed yesterday. That's what everybody wants. Yeah. But like getting your contract straight, it's crazy to me that you see all these contracts flying around and then all of a sudden a year later, everybody wants to revamp their contract. Get it done from the beginning the best you can, right? Get the contracts in place. I've seen numerous people where they now want to get everything together. Do it up front. Or I'm surprised, Megan, how many investors or realtors don't even have like a Google My Business page or a website. Like that blew my mind. I looked up a couple and I was just like, wait a second, I don't get it. You run a business, there's reviews, there's photos, there's website, there's links. It's like the little things, right? In the website, people, like you said, people will take you more seriously when you have these things. A website, right? I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to do it decently well. It's not that hard to find a good template for a website. Get some real pictures of you and your team on your site to put a face to the name so these sellers build trust with you. And everybody can tell when there's a site where it's stock photos. So get some real pictures done, get some operating agreements in place, get your Google business profile set up, and help your business actually, get to the toddler phase and the adult phase. And just getting these things in place now, especially as you're, getting those early relationships built, will only help as you continue to grow.
You actually just touched on a point, the operating agreements. A lot of people create LLCs and then they don't have their operating agreements, or they don't have all these other documents, or they want to trust, but it's a shoddy trust, or all these things are going to have a play later. So you want to take care of it up front for sure. Megan, a big topic that I think can help bring value to investors and their teams is something that you talked about, that you love it, is how to approach the transaction management side of things. This is definitely going to be a masterclass, because you're seeing what a lot of people aren't focused on. What do people need to focus on, whether it's with titles, their TCs, you name it?
Yeah. So one of the most disappointing things that we see is when somebody puts all the work in to get a deal in the door, they have a contract signed, they know who their buyer is going to be, and then they get to title and it just completely falls apart, right? For one reason or another. It could be because they don't have the aforementioned things that I listed off. But most of the time, it's just they don't know how to project manage the deal and get it done. So I would say, if you're a newer investor, yeah, go hire a TC company to do this for you and actually learn how it works, or a mentor or somebody who has done it before. There's tons of templates out there. There's tons of service providers who are really, really great at this. And, David Olds from Easy REI talks about this quite a bit, where he says investors are really, really good.
Oh, she's going to come back. She's dropping some golden nuggets on the great David Olds. Let's see what happens. Hold on. Stand by. She's coming back. She'll be back. Oh, no, she's frozen. The comments are blowing up right now. The comments, we see you all out there. We know you're watching. We just usually get to the comments at the end. We see you, JP, Dan McDuffie, Alex Ottawell. What's up, man? You're watching. I love it. Teresa, JP, Shelly. We see you all. Like, this is what's great, right? Interact, ask questions, drop comments while Megan's talking. Hopefully she comes back from the still picture. Mike, you definitely got to put this as a last week on the Al Nicoletti, right? But yeah, I think what she's about to get into is just a lot of these things that you need to watch out for, and how you can either maybe get an in-house TC or a virtual TC, and some of the ways that you can have a smoother process on the acquisition and disposition side of things. She's in the back room. I think she just hopped in. Let's see. Let's try it now. How about now?
All right. What about now? It's telling me I've got 9 out of 10. So I don't know what's wrong with that. Sorry about that.
You're good. We just went through the comment section real quick, but we'll come back to that later. So keep going.
Yeah.
Smooth process for acquisitions and dispositions, and some of the things to make a smooth process for people. Go for it.
Yep. Smooth process for people. So I was saying David Olds says it really well when he talks about how investors are really good at acquisitions. They're really good at construction sometimes, but they're not really good at is administrative work and the paperwork of actually getting the deals done. And so investors would do themselves a service by recognizing that and finding service providers to help them with it. And so whether it's a transaction coordinator, a mentor who can give you the checklist of exactly what needs to happen, that is where, from my perspective, that's where investors' reputations are built. If you have a seller who, not just got the deal that they wanted numbers wise, but had a really smooth closing experience, what we see with our best investors is that will only help them, because they'll go and give them 5 stars on their business page, like I talked about, and that'll lead to more contracts. And It's only good for investors to lean on, TC companies and good title partners, or, a site like Empora to help them manage this and not have to figure it all out on their own.
Yeah, a lot of businesses want to try to do things in-house and hire to figure that out, when really you can outsource and get the right players in the game that can help you on that. Whether you're in the title world, the law world, or the investor world, you definitely can learn from these things, because it's really business at the end of the day. It's not so much on the real estate side as it's managing a business and being able to say, I can go outside of my realm and go get people that can be the experts that can help us, right? Whether you're talking about David Olds talking about with the dispo process and an efficient TC, because he's at Easy REI Closings, and you have different people that are doing virtual TCs, right? So you're not having that in house; you're hiring them. So I like what you're talking about this with this. One thing we wrote here, which is, what can I rely on title for when it comes to these processes? What could you?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what you can rely on Empora for. And you can rely on Empora for making all of those things visible through our site and making it a one-stop shop for you and your team, right? So sometimes we see investors who have a TC on their team, or maybe they have two owners who are kind of figuring out who does what. And as a title partner, we look to really provide that full transparency into the process to say, this is exactly where we are. This is what happened today on your deal. And if there's a problem, you know about it as soon as we do. But from just in general in title, what you can rely on title companies to do is really help you understand the playbook of how you get from a contract to the closing table. So is your buyer's lender on track? Do you have title issues that need to be cleared, and how? And a retail focused title company won't necessarily be the right solution to actually help you figure out what's the fastest and easiest way to get it done. An investor focused title company with a really good partner on the inside can help you through that. And a partner like Empora can actually help you scale doing that across multiple states.
Very cool. Yeah. And again, I've heard a lot about what you guys are doing, and that's really cool. Megan, I think the golden gem for tonight really is how investors can get deals closed virtually. I remember when COVID hit, and before that, everybody was trying to get things done wet signed, right? So I even remember in the law firm, we were just trying to get things wet signed. I mean, yeah, you can send a PDF and they'll send it back to you. But really, a lot of the game changed then with getting things signed. And I remember a lot of the things we had to implement were DocuSign or Adobe Sign, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm using other programs for notaries. We have to break this down. So what does a virtual closing even look like, especially when you get to deeds and seller docs and all these other things that you get through?
Yeah. So honestly, Al, it looks a lot like this call right here, where you and I are on the phone together, me as the notary and you as the investor, and we will help you. I'll literally go in and notarize your documents virtually with a digital stamp, and then actually have you go through and sign all of them digitally with effectively a HelloSign block. And we record the call, which is great for security. You'll have to go in and answer a couple questions that prove that you are who you say you are, and upload a picture of your ID, just like a notary would typically collect. And to be honest, we see people do that all over the place. I mean, we've had clients close virtually from their house, from their bed, at 4:00 in the morning, because we have a 24/7 notary network, on private jets, on commercial planes, while driving, on their phones, while they're doing walkthroughs. Like, you can literally do it anywhere. And it really is the way of the future when it comes to how closings are going to be done.
It's crazy. So especially the notary part, right? This is what blew my mind on the call with you, which is how you're able to leverage the notary part with notarize.com. And you got to elaborate on this, because it was crazy for me with the deeds, because I was always under the impression all the title they want is wet signatures and deeds. Talk to us about the game changer with that.
Yeah. So, like you said, before COVID, there were only 7 states in the U.S. that actually allowed for this, and since then, and everybody had to keep doing business during COVID. People still had to move, even if it was less than normal. Um, Roughly 35 states in total all passed legislation that allowed for this. So that was a huge game changer. And the way this typically works is, call it 85% of all counties in the US will allow for digital recordings of deeds and will actually accept digital notarizations as a result of all this legislation. So, a notary can go on and they have that the seller signing the document. It's frankly an in-person appointment. And as you know, for states like Florida or even like Georgia, where attorneys are required, as long as the right parties are in the call, it typically works. And so what we see is a lot of title companies frankly just struggle with implementing the tech for these kinds of things, because it's kind of a pain to be like, hey, how do you want to close? If we do it this way, you got to bring these 3 people. If you do it this way, it's like this. People, we just get into our habits, and the industry will say, just come to my office, right? We can get the witnesses. You don't need to bring anybody. And you kind of just assume that that's what's most convenient, but that's not the case. So, that's typically how we handle it, is we give people the option. We meet them where they are. They don't have to close digitally, but if they want to and they're ready to, we make that happen. And honestly, it helps get the deals funded a lot faster too, because we have the docs immediately as opposed to 4 hours later. So gets the investor their money faster, gets the seller their money faster. And as long as they have the tech to do it, it's pretty gravy.
That's cool. Megan, what are some other did you knows when it comes to doing deals virtually and closing them virtually? Like, what are some other things that we just didn't even know about that you can do differently than just an in-person title?
Yeah. So another one that's really fun that we people's eyes always light up when they hear this for the first time. But did you know that you can actually submit earnest money to a title company on your phone with effectively Venmo? The same technology behind Venmo or Quick Pay. You can also use to send earnest money to your title company. So we see this with investors all the time, where they'll use our site to collect earnest money from their buyers, and their buyers get a link from us. They submit, their $2,500 earnest money deposit without having to pay a wire fee or drive to their bank, God forbid. And we notify the investor and say, hey, Al just submitted his earnest money. We'll let you know when it clears. And it's great. So it eliminates a whole section of the TC portion that we were talking about earlier, where there's like the tracking down of, did the email Sandy, hey, did so-and-so, submit their earnest money? It's like, we just get rid of all that. And some of the payment technology that has existed for a decade, we can use for now.
Amazing. So payments, notarize, the sellers don't have to go anywhere. The investors really don't have to go anywhere. That's really neat. And again, I think the cool part is really the deeds. Because that kind of coordination, there's sellers that just don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to do anything. There's one probate right now where they don't want to go to the courthouse, which is 20 minutes away, to try to go get certified copies. They just want to stay put, and being able to provide that to all parties is really cool. What's some other did you knows? Like what's some other really nifty things that you all can do virtually now in the title world?
Yeah. So another one is we start title searches instantly in our system. So when an investor uploads a contract to our site, we actually use AI to extract all the data from the contract that we need. So the property address, the buyer, the seller name, if you have a parcel ID on there, we take that off as well. Purchase price, earnest money amounts, you name it. We actually port that into our system automatically, and then automatically start all the workflows associated with it. So digital title search is being one of them. So with a traditional title company who just doesn't have the tools yet, what you run into is, everybody's seen this contract sits in somebody's inbox for a couple of days, and what do you know, the title work is behind less than 2 weeks later. And so especially with, the amount of AI that's coming onto the scene and just how much it's progressed over the past few years, we're continuing to look at ways to use document data extraction to just eliminate back and forth and eliminate room for human error in the process.
Very cool. It's really neat. And where do you think this is all going to transition in a few years with more AI and more technology? Like, are there some things that you're seeing now that you're thinking, wait, I wish this would be more virtual, and maybe there's going to be a fine-tuned process with it? What could you foresee in the next couple years where it's going to be even better?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think that the biggest thing that's going to change over the next few years is it's all going to get compressed down to a shorter and shorter time horizon. So Empora, 3 years from now, we'll be able to close same day if people want to, right? And so we're going to see title no longer being a bottleneck as we continue to automate things and really say, okay, now this is more of like a TurboTax style platform where you can go in and you can go at your own pace. You can go as fast as you want, as slow as you want, but you're never going to hear again, oh, title is behind, or title dropped the ball, or they just didn't get something done for 4 days. And we're really excited about that, because what that means for everybody is frankly, just more control over the process and really giving investors the ability to get more deals done. And that leads to people growing their businesses and, a rising tide that lifts all ships. So we're really excited about that, and really believe that that's going to be a huge game changer. I think the other thing too, Alex, keep in mind, we talked about fraud at the top of this. Another reason that a digital platform for title just makes a lot of sense is the sensitivity of the transaction, right? So the identity fraud involved, the financial fraud involved, that's only going to get worse. We actually had somebody call a new employee less than 2 weeks ago with a recording of my voice and say, hey, I need you to send me money, right? Because people do that. Like, hey, I need you to send me a gift card. I need you to send me money. Normally we just get people, they receive emails from impersonators of, CEOs and leadership teams. And like, that's scary. That's new. And so we're going to continue to see, fraud increase as AI and technology becomes more advanced, and investors should be ready for that too. So that's another thing that we're thinking about for our platform, is really saying, okay, everything is done through here, and this is how you create a secure environment to transact and make these things happen. And that's been really top of mind for us the past 4 months.
That is crazy that that's happening. That's the first time I've heard about that. I didn't know that they were getting that sophisticated.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just in Q4 of last year, there was actually a guy in a finance position in Japan, and somebody actually fabricated a video call with somebody who impersonated their CFO. So he figured out how to make a video of their CFO saying, send me $25 million from this operating account. And the director, or somebody who's just many levels below him, believed it and actually wired $25 million to a fraudster. So like, this stuff is getting really real, and it's only changing more quickly, and people need to be ready for that too.
Yeah, I mean, especially with that kind of money. I mean, that's not something you want to mess with. Are you seeing anything with the wires that are going out in the virtual world differently than like an in-person title company?
So we have, like I said, we have a more secure system where people get all of their wire instructions through our site, and we hammer that into people where we say, if you get wire instructions from anywhere other than here, do not trust it, right? And so, we do still continue to see people impersonating emails on behalf of agents or title companies saying, send my money here. And that's still very dangerous. So, title companies who don't have secure environments are going to continue to struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have those systems in place for sure. Megan, really interesting stuff, and I'm really intrigued to see like where this goes with the virtual title side of things. Whether it starts venturing into just a total virtual world, and then the use of AI, maybe in some form. Maybe you guys start seeing the cryptocurrency exchanges for title happen. I don't know if you've already seen stuff like that yet, or maybe you'll see other crazy transactions. But this is definitely interesting. The deed part really got me. I got to look up what counties in Florida actually allow for the notarization online for deeds. Still got to look that one up, and then you coordinate all of that. Really great stuff. I think we can all learn something from this, and I'm sure you're gonna continue helping educate everybody out there and your company on what's going to happen in the virtual world. And I just got to give a shout out because I bet the guys are still watching. The great David Olds is watching, and Alex Ottewell. They've been going back and forth. Alex, you had me smiling. Love you, man. It's really great to see that the whole family mastermind crew has been watching, because I heard just so many amazing things just from the family crew about Empora. I remember Nicholas Nick. I think it was Nicholas Nick was the first time I saw him comment about something on a deal, and it's just awesome to see. What was David talking about earlier? I didn't know what he said. But yeah, even Teresa asked, Megan, is there any state that you cannot close virtually? And is there any state that you don't work in?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there are still a handful of states where you can't close virtually. Georgia is unfortunately one of them, where you can actually do digital notarizations, but as a state, they do not accept digital recordings. So a digitally notarized document, they won't accept those digital deeds yet at a recording level. So that's a problem. But to be honest, the tide has already swung so far in the direction of the majority of the states in the U.S. adopting this that it's really only a matter of time. And then, to be honest, we currently work in 6 or 7 states for the majority of our business. We're licensed in 35, so we will be national before the end of 2025. But we're taking it one state at a time and focus primarily on Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Missouri at the moment.
Awesome. Those are you're good in those states, right? Stay there. And then you can expand from there. Love it. I didn't even get to see Matt. Matt, are you still on? Matt Andrews is watching right now. This is great. I love it. We are definitely in full family mode session right now. And it's crazy. The community that Matt's put together with the family, amazing. And this is what it's all about, bringing us together, provide the value back to the entire community. It's great. Megan, I have signature questions usually at the end of my show. And I kind of touched on one of them that was actually, we'll come back to Teresa's question. I actually, you touched on one with where do you see the virtual title world going in 5 years or a couple years? Where do you see real estate as a whole transitioning in the next 5 years?
Yeah, great question. So, real estate as a whole over the next 5 years, I definitely think that the whole industry, I mean, we're seeing this with the real estate agents and everything that they're going through with the NAR. The whole industry is rethinking their customer experience through a consumer lens, and they're being held accountable to do it. So, even things like the FTC ban on non-competes in the last 2 weeks. That's huge. I can't tell you how many title people I've met who've said, I got this non-compete and I don't know what to do about it, right? So real estate as a whole is going to be more digital, more consumer first. It's going to be faster. There's going to be more access to capital. And, I think the thing that we all want to see is investors still have a really strong place in the game, even as some of the larger iBuying companies continue to grow. I do strongly believe that real estate investors are going to continue to have an edge, especially at a local level, because they know their markets, they know their zip codes, and they know their sellers, frankly, better than any of the national companies do. So especially over the next few years with how much is changing macroeconomically, I can see investors still continuing to grow and dominate in their regions.
Yeah, and just to see like the ebbs and flows of where the market's going, whether the interest rates come down, they go back, they go up. The landscape just changes, and just being able to pivot and learn how to pivot and just keep educating yourself is going to make a difference in what you do. Megan, what would you say is something that's a part of your job that you would not give up?
That's an interesting question. What is a part of my job that I would not give up? So I think there's really, well, I just wouldn't ever give up. I would never give up my job unless I wasn't the right person to do it. But I would say there's a couple of things. One, I love our product development. I'm definitely a product vision oriented person and just love thinking about ways to automate. And so I would never give that up fully because it's frankly the place where I bring the most value to our company. And then I would also say being able to actually be in the field, talk to our clients, build relationships with our partners, and hear from them directly is not something that I would ever give up because CEOs who stop getting their hands dirty stop running their companies well, in my opinion. And some of the best CEOs, even of the biggest companies, still do things like take customer service calls one day a quarter, or actually go into their warehouses and get their hands dirty in their products. So I would never give that up because I'm always curious to learn about what investors need and never take for granted that we know exactly what that is.
Yeah. And I can tell you on my side, the marketing side, that's one side I could not give up. Right. There's certain things that are a part of your lifestyle and the way you are and your personality that you can't give up. And I love that for you. It's like, what that is, and you're just going to hold that, and then you'll delegate all the other things that you don't want to handle, and you'll find the experts that do know what to do in that industry. Love that. Megan, if you could go back and start your business all over again, what would be things that you would do differently?
Yeah, great question. So, all's well that ends well. We started in the middle of COVID, so our team is completely remote. And if I could go back, I probably would have gotten an office earlier in the company's life, more on the front end of when people started going back into the office to get that face-to-face interaction with people. I definitely believe that that's where the magic happens, being able to get in front of a whiteboard and really have, an honest conversation face to face. So that's one thing. I would also say, from a hiring perspective, making sure to bring on investor focused escrow officers early was something that we should have done way sooner. So we brought our first Columbus based EO back in the fall, who really had a great reputation with investors that she worked with. And that's been a game changer for us. We've since hired a few others, and just having that knowledge base internally early on is something that I wish we would have done. I think the last thing is I wish I would have, if I could go back, I know Gina's on the line listening to this, I would have implemented a better scheduling system much earlier, just to help me manage my time and just lean into the structure of time management, not just for yourself, but to benefit everybody else around you a lot sooner. And frankly, that's something that I still need to do a better job of. So if I would have done that from the get-go, I probably would have prevented a lot of problems.
But then you learn as you go, and now you're just thriving on it. Right. Yeah. And then you just fix it from there, right? Find the right people, get the right people. And Gina's doing amazing on her end, and the whole team seems to be working out. So, it's just something you think about because there's people that are just starting that are trying to put everything together, and just that one nugget can actually help them move forward on with their project or their business. So I love that. I want to come back to Teresa's question. She said, Megan, with the fraud, what it is, do you have the network with local title companies in the different states to close at a title company if the seller or buyer was weary of closing virtually? I've had buyers in the past want to physically go into a title company because they have been the victim of fraud before.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of great questions on the line tonight. So the short answer is that we do. We don't have it in all 50 states, but what we typically see is, even for the folks who are nervous about it, we lean on our mobile notary network, who will meet them anytime, any place. So if they want to meet at a local Starbucks, they want somebody to come to their house or their office or wherever it might be, and we really lean into, we will meet you where you are. And if even after that, they really still want to come into a physical office, we figure it out. We've done the post office, we've done local title companies. If we have partners or, even attorneys that we've worked with in different places, So we do find it, we do have it when we need to. But honestly, most of the time what we see is people love the second option where it's like, okay, you're not forcing me to close over a computer. If you have somebody who's willing to meet me exactly at the time and place that I want, and there's paperwork and maybe even a cashier's check accompanying it, that typically works.
Cool. There you go, Teresa. And hopefully that helps with people that are dealing with those situations, right? And again, the interaction is off the charts tonight. I'm glad, Alex, you're enjoying the late night show with Al right now and the voice. That's really good. I'm happy that's working. Kyle Vreeland, my man. Are you still watching, Kyle? I love it. Kyle's watching the show right now. He's probably tuning in, about to go to bed. I love it. And Mandy, another one. The Konecki's are watching right now. Where's Keith, Mandy? Is Keith watching? The Connection. So you got the whole family watching tonight. Great stuff, Megan. I think this is going to be really cool seeing where the whole virtual title world goes. I think it's going to be really cool seeing in Empora just really craft that niche with the investors and title. And, this is a game changer for a lot of people in investing. So I'm so happy I got to bring you on. And as I do at the end of my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Anything that you really want to leave the audience with to impact them in their business or something to get them thinking about in the future and something that they can just take home with them so they can help level up their business. So as I do at the end of my show, Final Words, Final Thoughts, Megan Harris.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And thank you again for having us. It is super fun to see all the people from the family on here. It's been really great getting to know you guys over the past few masterminds. So yeah, I would say whether it's your team or the service providers you work with, title, transaction, TC companies, lenders, you name it. Just remember that your service providers are partners in your business and they all talk too. So, whether it's Empora or not, hopefully it's Empora one day. Just be thinking about how you're building your own professional brand for your business as you're working with your partners, and make sure that you realize that if you've got your stuff in line, you're organized, you've got your operating agreements, and you know your seller's cell phone number, and you have a good relationship. That only makes the whole transaction easier for everybody else. And you want your business to be reflected that way. We see a lot of investors sometimes who they're moving really fast, and we love that. That's great. Our goal is to close as fast and as easy as possible. But sometimes they forget that, that contractor or that lender or that TC company, that's a human on the other end of the line as well. And the better you treat those people, the better partnerships and service and ultimately business, you're going to have. And so just remember that as you're, growing and looking to grow and pushing, the top end of your limits, you're probably pushing your service provider's limits too. And so just make sure that you're thinking about rising tides, lifting all ships.
Great stuff right there, Megan. Megan, perfect. We're going to leave it right there. And just had to say two extra things. Alex said, I love Braden Lambros. And Elise is watching. I didn't even know we were live on LinkedIn. Really awesome show, Al. I do closings for Empora on Proof all the time. So look at that right there. Virtual at its finest. Megan, it's so fun. We got to connect for the first time on the show. Stay on after. Don't go away. Don't hop off. But I got to say, I hope we get to connect in person at the next Family Mastermind. And I think it'll be great. And just keep the team going. Keep everybody going. And Gina's watching. Gina, keep going out there. Love what y'all are doing. So with that being said, Megan, thank you so much for being on. And stay on after. And I'll see you after the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
All right. You got it. Wow. Perfect. That's what we wanted to talk about. The hot topics, what to look out for, and how to get these deals closed virtually in the title world, and some of the did you knows. I really learned a lot when I was able to talk to Megan last week before coming on the show. Things with the deeds. I know the notarize.com thing that's out there. We utilize that in the office. It's a game changer if people haven't heard about it. Notarize.com. It's like DocuSign, but for notary. And it's amazing where this market's going. It's amazing what you're able to see and do. And you don't have to go anywhere if you want to get these things closed virtually. So a lot of investors have been going to Empora. You got all the credentials and the chyrons that have been popping on the screen. If you want to connect with Megan, reach out to the team, reach out to them, and work with them on the title side. Another one in the books. And if you want to hear more of us and more of me on the show, scan the QR code. You'll get everything right there. All the social media out there, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the crazy platforms that you're seeing me on right now. And next week, you don't want to miss another one in the hopper with John Duong. He is crushing it with land. If you are in the high value land group on Facebook, this is the guy that's been killing it for all those people in that group, doing land deals all over Florida, just crushing it. Don't want to miss that. So check it out. We'll see you all next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you missed any of this episode, go back, check it out. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.